What's up, you fabulous forkers, and welcome to Where Does Food, a food history podcast that tells you about the history of food. I'm one of your hosts, Elle, and I have my host today, Tim.
Yeah, I'm your other host, Tim. I'm the guy. I'm the guy.
He's the guy, and today, Tim, we're exploring food in World War I, aka the Great War.
The Great War.
We're doing this.
The war to end all wars, they said.
So we thought, right? So today's episode, it's going to work a little differently, as we don't necessarily have a rating scale with this one as of right now.
You want me to rate World War One?
We're gonna rate the foods of World War One, but at the end.
Okay.
But at the end, I want to hear. Right. We'll kind of this will kind of be like one of the more. We'll do it out of 50. We'll do it out. That's gonna be your marker right there.
Don't even give me a marker. Just
That's
let me shoot.
Like
let me just shoot from the hip, Elle. At the end of the podcast, I'll just give a fucking number, and it'll just be on a scale.
Okay, I like that. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
The rules have changed. Okay.
Yeah. What is this podcast? Who gives a shit? I am in a mood tonight.
It's your buzzing tropical wheat you're feeling tonight.
I am buzzing a little bit.
So the biggest thing with foods from the First World War was that the government was, as the kids say, pushing that P, with the P being preservation.
I thought you were going to say
the
pussy.
Recipes. Maybe the war would have went differently if that's what they were pushing. I don't know.
Maybe it would have. Probably would have solved a couple of problems.
The recipes from the Great War are merely variations of food that has a common denominator. The idea was that a person or family's choice to skip an ingredient in the kitchen meant that that ingredient and its calories could be used to help a soldier go the extra mile during World War I.
Right.
In fact, President Woodrow Wilson stated, "The whole foundation of democracy lies in the individual initiative of its people and their willingness to serve the interests of the nation with complete self-effacement in the time of emergency."
Jesus.
Sounds familiar,
what
huh?
a mouthful. He could have just been like, do what you want for your country. You know what I mean?
Nah. He was like, you guys need to sacrifice a little bit. Will you do that? I don't know. But yeah, I was like, wow, that theme could have went far. Anyways, so yeah, Tim, let's get into it. I wanted to provide a little background to the war first, because we're not only a food podcast, but we're a food history podcast. And
we're a war podcast now.
We're a war podcast. But here's the thing. It's like normally science time. We're going to do history time.
History time in the history podcast. I'm not going to make a jingle for that because we are a history podcast and we always do history time.
Okay, so there's a number of alliances involving European powers. The Ottoman Empire, Russia, and other parties had existed for years, but political instability, of course, in the Balkans, so that's going to be Bosnia, Serbia, and Herzegovina, threatened to destroy these agreements. The spark that ignited World War I was struck in Sarajevo, Bosnia, where Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, along with his wife Sophie, was shot by Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip on June 28, 1914. Princip and other nationalists were struggling to end the Austro-Hungarian rule over Bosnia-Herzegovina. Politics, we love it here. So, because Russia supported Serbia, Austria-Hungary waited to declare war until its leaders received assurance from German leader Kaiser Wilhelm II that Germany would support their cause. Austro-Hungarian leaders feared that a Russian intervention would involve Russia's ally, France, and possibly Great Britain as well. On July 5th, Kaiser Wilhelm secretly, here's the key, pledged to support, giving Austria-Hungary a quote-unquote blank check, assuring Germany's backing in case of war. Convinced that Austria-Hungary was readying for war, the Serbian government ordered the Serbian army to mobilize and appeal to Russia for assistance, the backstabbing. On July 28th, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, and within a week, Russia, Belgium, France, Great Britain, and Serbia had lined up against Austria-Hungary and Germany, which started World War I. So it's like, all right, cool. World War I, not really an issue for us over here in the United States. Right. Not so fast, my friend, quoting Lee Corso. So at the outbreak of fighting in 1914, the U.S. remained on the sidelines of World War I. They adopting state of neutrality, which Woodrow Wilson president at the time, continued to engage in commerce and shipping with European countries on both sides of the conflict. So it's like...
Right. Classic,
right? We're neutral. We're literally buying and selling both sides. Like, we're trying to chill. Here's where it gets a little kicker, though. In 1915, Germany declared the waters surrounding the British Isles to be a war zone, and German U-boats sunk several commercial and passenger vessels, including some U.S. ships. Then, in May 1915, Germans came under fire and under widespread protests over the sinking of the British ocean liner Lithuania, traveling from New York to Liverpool, England, with hundreds of American passengers on board. This helped turn the American public opinion of Germans and the war. Then, in January 1917, so about 2 years later, the German foreign minister, Arthur Zimmermann, sent a telegram to Mexico suggesting that if the U.S. should declare war on Germany, Mexico should declare war on the U.S., and in return, Mexico would get back the territories that were lost in the Mexican-American War. So, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. I know, what a play. The telegram, though, it was intercepted by the British and hurriedly given to the Americans. Although Mexico had no intention of declaring war on the United States, the publication of the letter further mobilized the American people against the Central Powers.
Damn.
In February 1917, Congress passed a $250 million arms appropriations bill, which is intended to make the U.S. ready for the war. $250 million for 1917.
That's wild.
That's as stupid as a scope of amount of money at that time. So Germany ended up sinking 4 more U.S. merchant ships in the following month, and then on April 2nd, Woodrow Wilson appeared before Congress and called for a declaration of war against Germany. So,
wow.
Right?
So,
yeah.
like, I'm a peasant and know, like, nothing about World War I outside of the fact that, like, Archduke Ferdinand, like, you know, he died, and I knew that, like, kicked off a whole series of events. I had no fucking I had no fucking clue that Germany was trying to play Mexico against the States. That's insane.
No, the Zimmermann telegram.
Yeah.
They I mean, it's like, and really they were out here they were funding the fuel. They were like, hey, we have a blank check for you guys. If you're trying to make this happen, you just let us know, and we'll call the purse. And then they just kept playing.
We'll call the purse.
Kept playing it, man, dude. Like, come on. And like here's where the twist. Like, I'm sure some of you are not going to be surprised to learn that American businessmen were very interested in the Allied victory, and many, such as J.P. Morgan, helped fund British and French war efforts with approximately $3 billion in loans and bond purchases. So if the Allies were to be defeated by the Central Powers, they probably wouldn't be able to repay their debt to the U.S. lenders. So many businessmen supported the so-called quote-unquote preparedness movement, which campaigned for the U.S. intervention in the war on the side of the Allied forces.
Golly.
So we had businessmen out here trying to be like, yeah, we'll help fund the French and the Brits. And then they're like, oh, wait, no, just kidding. I don't think you guys are going to win.
Golly.
Send the boys.
That's insane.
Send the boys. I know, right?
That's wild.
1914 to 1918, and by the time everything was said and done, 16 million soldiers and civilians perished. And that was history time.
Yeah, that's a brutal one.
That's World War I. Yeah, it's a brutal one. All right, so food was a weapon during World War I. Like, who would have thought, right? So the idea was that the U.S. government needed their citizens to save wheat, meat, fats, and sugars. You've probably heard us say variations of this throughout this entire podcast. Yeah. Like, not obviously going to be just this episode, but just in general, the foods and how certain recipes and ingredients have shaped this right here, right? They asked, instead of wheat, people would use corn. Instead of meat, to use more fish and beans, and they preferred that we use syrups to sweeten things instead of sugars. Fats were encouraged, but in just small, quote-unquote, just enough amounts. So the United States Food Administration was created in 1970, and it was headed by a man called, you've probably heard of him, Herbert Hoover, and he campaigned to convince Americans to voluntarily change their eating habits in order to save enough food to feed our military and starving civilians in Europe. So yeah, the guy who's going to be president, one day, that Herbert Hoover.
Poor old fucking Hoover, man. The kid became president, and then we hit a fucking big ass depression.
Hoovervilles, baby.
Sheesh. Oh man, that's bad. Yeah, that's cool,
not
man.
Great not great timing.
That's cool that he He was involved in telling the American people that they just need to use the right amount.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better. So U.S. citizens were strongly encouraged by the Food Administration to forego certain ingredients to save them for American allies and American soldiers. From 1917 to 1918, 14 million households pledged to observe 2 wheatless days a week, save sugar every day, eat no meat on Tuesdays, keep Saturdays porkless, and make every day a fat-saving day. Tim, do you think you could abide by that for a week, for 4... Well, it was about a year, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, like, are we talking about me being planted back into 1914, or are we talking about that enacting today?
Well, okay.
I need parameters for your question, Elle.
Because no, you bring up a good point, Tim, because if I read this, and it's like, I think people do this.
Yeah, you read that, and I'm like, I don't eat any of that.
People do,
but then I'm thinking about 1914, and I'm like, well, that's a different ballgame.
But in 1914, I don't know, though. It would be very hard. It'd be very hard to shift.
Pork was big time back then. Pork was big game back then. Wheat was huge. I mean, wheat's still pretty big in my life. Wheat's the hardest one. You said 2 wheatless days a
Just
week.
2 wheatless days, though.
That's the
you still get
hardest
5
one.
days a wheat.
I don't know, Coach. You don't get it. Those PB&Js hit. You don't get it. PB&Js hit. They hit whenever they hit, all right? I can't control the craving. They just hit.
They hit when they hit.
Yeah, I don't know. They smack. I don't know what to tell you.
They smacked, though. Yeah, it's okay. You took the word. I don't know what to tell you.
They smack.
So, they smacked over. The administration, they advocated using alternatives like honey or molasses for sugar and corn and barley for wheat. They educated with memorable slogans such as, and I quote, "When in doubt, eat potatoes," and I quote, "Help us observe the gospel of the clean plate."
I thought you were gonna like rhyme. I thought it was straight up just like no rhyming.
One of my favorite things, dude. They were just like,
when in doubt, eat potatoes,
dude. Don't worry about it.
I swear to God.
That's honestly a good moniker. I agree. Like, when in doubt, just eat potatoes. You can fry them. You can bake them. Like scallop them. Like, however you want to do. Mash them.
Yeah, potatoes are versatile as fuck. It's just very funny.
They're super versatile.
When in doubt, eat potatoes. Get the fuck out of here. Eat potatoes. I swear to God.
Well, Tim, this is the government trying to market this, not our snake oil salesmen that we are used to hearing of.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know.
When in doubt, eat potatoes. The fact that it's the government too. I know the government probably made like a nice little thing and it wasn't threatening, but the government's like such a.
It's just like on a poster.
The government's such a threatening entity that all I can envision is just like hey,
it's like a potato gun.
Eat fucking potatoes. I swear to God.
Buds are just being shot at your face.
It's just like the fucking ATF just at your fucking doorstep, kicking your door in. You better eat fucking potatoes.
Where's your fucking potatoes?
Did you have 3 weekdays this week? I swear to God.
Fucking potatoes.
That's where potato bread.
Is that fucking point?
Surely this is where potato bread came from. Like this has to be it.
The potato cakes, yeah.
That's gotta be some like Irish bullshit.
Fuck, dude. So yeah, they had incredible slogans like that, and they also had Meatless Mondays and Wheatless Wednesday. The government
so they know alliteration. They just gave up. I swear to God, they gave up. I keep cutting you off, but the fact that they were like Wheatless Wednesdays, Meatless Mondays, like.
Our U.S. government gave up a long time ago, Tim. That's what you should get.
But they were just like, yeah, when in doubt, eat potatoes. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't they couldn't think of anything else. When in doubt, eat potatoes. They should have just.
Again, I don't think they're wrong.
The calendar for the week should have just been like potatoes. I don't know. Potatoes, man. Potatoes on Monday, potatoes on Tuesdays.
You know what, though? If I had a steady flow of potatoes coming in, I probably could last off of potatoes.
Sure, for a
because
little
it's like
bit.
you said, they're so versatile.
You'd be so malnourished.
A little bit.
You'd be so malnourished.
100%. But like, you know.
They got some decent like nutrients, but Jesus Christ, that would be...
Not enough.
No, not enough of some shit.
Not enough, absolutely not. So, Tim, you're probably wondering though, like how how are we transporting all of these things? Like, we don't have planes like that, right? Like, we're not air freighting these.
No.
Well, the government had taken over the railroads and given
Yeah.
preference to shipping war necessities, right? So this left many communities with fewer fruits and vegetables than when they received before the war. In response, many people grew what are called war gardens, and the government also encouraged buying locally and growing these quote-unquote liberty gardens. So I think this is actually kind of cool, because I wish this is something that we would have stuck through, but a number of organizations mobilized civilians to create liberty gardens or war gardens, as growing food would allow more commercially grown produce to be available for our troops and European allies. The National War Garden Commission was created in 1917, and it encouraged Americans to cultivate gardens, and it aimed to quote-unquote arouse the patriots of America to the importance of putting all idle land to work, and to teach them how to do it, and to educate them to conserve by canning and drying all food they could not eat while fresh. Eating local meant less need for transportation, which was required to move troops, munitions, and coal. The campaign resulted in over 5 million gardens. Community gardens sprang up, and children tilled the land at their schools. Insane. That's just like absurd amount.
Like, it pisses me off that like the only time we do that is for like a war effort. We shouldn't just,
I know.
We shouldn't just do that because
it's like because if you do that on like a scale to today, like that would be so beneficial.
That's the thing is like, and that's something that comes up all the time, right? It's like shop local. And we've talked a little bit about like how there are food deserts in this country, but there's also food swamps in this country.
Food swamps, yep.
It's amazing to me that we see that, but that's okay now because I don't know, corporatism. I don't fucking know. I don't know what point I'm trying to make. I'm just saying it's a little frustrating that community gardening.
No, it's very frustrating.
Community gardening only gets brought up when it's for some fucking war effort, as opposed to just it being good for people to shop local.
Just the normal,
and it being good for communities, and it bringing communities together. I don't know. That's annoying. That's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. And so part of this was that women played a large role in the war garden movements, and they were known as farmerettes, or I should say soldiers of the land. The Women's Land Army of America equipped over 20,000 women to aid farms after the male workers enlisted in the military. Demonstration centers taught agricultural skills to whomever needed it to ensure these practices were put into place. That I think is also the kicker, that there are people in places where you could actually learn the skills and then go and apply. Can I go take a farming class at the agricultural center right now if I wanted to start my own farm?
Right.
Like,
yeah, big facts.
I genuinely don't know. And it's like, I'm not trying to watch a YouTube video about that. Like, I'd like to go out and actually learn, so another big thing, it's like, all right, yeah, I think that was interesting. It's like, we're actually going to, if we're going to do this, we're at least teaching the information.
Right. I feel like that's a line to be drawn so heavily for me when it comes to like quote unquote government intervention. Is just like, if anything, just be good at getting objective information out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like if you can just be
an actual resource.
Yeah, if you could just get good objective information out to people. You don't have to force people to do things. You don't have to like enact all of this crazy shit to like force hands and like that shit with in the soda episode number 2 with the Bloomberg in New York, where the whole trying to have a stop like a certain size of soda. I think they did an episode on Parks and Rec about this. They had an episode about where they had that whole thing about trying to stop the selling of certain sizes because it's bad for people, but in reality all you have to do is just like tell people that it's bad, and then that's all you should do. And then from there, if people want it, people get it, and they understand the consequences of getting it, and that's it. That's the end of that,
and that's great.
And
that's yeah.
But so I agree in the sense of just like, yeah, it's great. Like you can just go and get this information, and it can be, and that helped. And I mean, it seems to be a thing, right? It's like, hey, it's out there. That information can help push trends, essentially, just because it exists, just because it's accessible.
Absolutely. So this is a wild stat to me. Voluntary conservation of food reduced U.S. domestic food consumption by more than 15%. And at the same time, the U.S. dramatically increased food production in order to keep ailing British and French soldiers fed. And by the harvest of 1918, American food exports had tripled. Those are absurd. Yeah, that's absurd. I gotta say, impressed. Yeah. Let's look at this pledge situation that 14 million Americans took. Here it is. So here's the details about this. So Meatless Monday, kind of popular today, but the Food Administration coined the term over 100 years ago.
Yep.
They pleaded with Americans to participate in lowering meat consumption, particularly beef and pork. The administration campaigned with posters and published information in pamphlets, newspapers, and magazines to encourage meatless meals. They also created recipes and sample menus for meatless days. So, alternative proteins included fish, beans, peanuts, other nuts, and cheeses. Many recipes featured vegetables, especially those that were grown in those homegrown community gardens. And then nose-to-tail eating was also promoted. So you had recipes using things with kidneys, liver, heart, snout, and every part of the animal. Nothing would be wasted. Like really going back to our roots here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You're asking us to do this thing and partake in changing our diets. All right, here is recipes and things that you can actually do in order to successfully do that, which again, like that's like you said, providing resources, providing objective information. A lot of people were obviously like backing the war effort, but that doesn't mean everyone was backing the war effort, you know?
Yeah, no,
there's probably still some people that are
always people who are going to object to war. It will never not be a thing. I mean, you can kind of look at it now. I don't think there's a lot of like woo-hawing about war efforts from America these days. I think there's a ton of people that are just like, hey, can we not actually? But yeah.
Yeah, definitely a general sentiment change for sure. So in 1960, Americans ate an astonishing 85 pounds of sugar per person a year. For comp purposes, the Brits consumed 40 pounds on average, the French 37 pounds, and Germans only 20 pounds. So we loved sugar, and we spent an estimated $80 million annually on candy. So to increase sugar conservation, the administration encouraged Americans to use less sugar in their coffee and tea, eat less candy, and stop frosting cakes. Alternatives to white sugar included honey, maple syrup, corn syrup, and molasses. And then they, again, provided wartime recipes that use these sweeteners. And the FDA actually started to promote fruit in desserts. So fresh fruit preserves and dried fruit, such as raisin and dates. Moreover, additional sugar could be used for canning fruit, as officials recognized the overall conservation value of preserves. In order to purchase sugar, shoppers had to present the merchant with a card issued by the county food administrator. Retailers and wholesalers were required to sign certificates stating that they would follow the food laws regulated to the sale of sugar.
Damn.
And then fats, right? The administration promoted using less oil by baking, broiling, and boiling food rather than frying. They issued a bunch of tips on saving oil, dripping, and how to render and reuse fats. A number of recipes substituted butter with margarine or shortening. Then, Tim, your favorite, potatoes.
Yep.
The administration urged Americans to eat potatoes whenever possible in any variation, as the weight of potatoes made them impractical to ship across the Atlantic Ocean. It was too heavy to ship. The potatoes had to stay here. We had to eat the potatoes. When in doubt, eat potatoes. But corn.
Yeah.
Let's talk about corn. So, corn was the grain of America, as it was called. It could be used to make cornbread, griddle cakes, muffins, and other baked goods. War bread could contain any number of alternative flours, so that included rice, barley, rye, oats, potato, or buckwheat. Another aim of the administration involved stopping food waste, especially of bread. The government standardized the size of loaves of bread made by bakeries. Only bread baked with an exact percentage of substitute ingredients as required by the food laws could be called victory bread. So apparently in Oregon, they had two recipes for bread. They had war bread, which contained 40% of wheat substitutes, while you also had victory bread, and that contained roughly 25% of substitutes. So I couldn't actually confirm this.
Shit.
I did see a commentary where people's stomachs were hurting consuming this variation of bread, and said that they would prefer to go die on the battlefields of France than eat the bread because it would be a less painful death. We've just had whiny bitch. Yeah, people are like,
Jesus.
It's super dramatic. And I'm like, again, good to
dramatic.
see. Good to see.
That seems dramatic. That can't be that bad.
I don't want to hear anyone saying that we're soft. Like, there's just soft all the time.
Yeah. Let's not, like, I don't even want to open up the can of worms of like believing that the past is some fucking beacon of hope and
let's
prosperity. Get the fuck out of here, guys. That everyone has always been and will be a bunch of fucking absolute degens.
Every time. To your point, Tim, from earlier, let's talk about some of these victory cookbook recipes. So, these cookbooks were created in lieu of the war and the efforts needed at home to support the Allied troops. For Wheatless Mondays, from Alice Bradley's Wheatless and Meatless Menus and Recipes, 1918, the Food Administration argued that if Americans could use more corn, millions of bushels of wheat would be liberated for allies. We've got Hoover cornbread with the incredible endorsement from the director of the Food Administration, Herbert Hoover. He says, and I quote, "We all like corn," and I quote, and that's how he sold it. Yeah, 2 cups of yellow cornmeal, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, teaspoon of salt, 2 cups of milk, tablespoon of shortening or cooking oil, and then a teaspoon of corn syrup. Put it all together, split it, boom, there you go. That's your bread. That's your Hoover cornbread.
I'm sorry. A teaspoon of corn syrup?
We're preserving, Tim.
Okay. You're right. That's a bland cornbread.
Oh, yeah. Then you had Meatless Tuesdays, camouflage roast from the 20th Century Wartime Cookbook, 1918. And I quote, "We must save meat to save ourselves." That's from the Food Administration. They're really hitting the quotes, you know?
Yeah.
This is 2 cups of breadcrumbs, a cup of peanuts, grounded or fine, a juice of half a lemon, a pinch of mace, pepper, 1 small grated onion, 1 teaspoon butter substitute, 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, 1 teaspoon flour or cornstarch. Mix all that stuff together. You pretty much stir the flour into the melted butter substitute, add milk and onion, bring to a boil, add nuts, add the breadcrumbs, remove from the fire, add lemon, egg, and mace, bake in a buttered pudding dish till brown and serve with tomato sauce.
Oh, buddy.
I don't know about
that's
that.
That's supposed to be like a meatloaf substitute.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That doesn't sound good at all.
It doesn't sound good at all. I just feel like I'll take the tomato sauce. Thank you. Wheatless Wednesdays.
Oh,
here you go.
Man.
You'll like this one. Potato waffles from Pauline Partridge and Hester Conklin and Wheatless and Meatless Days, 1918. You got 1 cup cold mashed potatoes. You got 1 cup milk, 2 egg yolks, 1 teaspoon melted fat, 1/4 cup sugar, 1/2 cup rye flour, teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 stiffly beaten egg whites. So we're using all part of the egg. So you mix all that stuff together, mix the sugar, salt, flour, the egg yolks, the beaten eggs out, add melted fat, fold in the egg whites, pour into the hot, greased waffle iron, filling iron 2/3 for full into each time. Cook until brown and serve with maple or Caro syrup, which I wanted to double check on Caro syrup. It's a commercially prepared corn syrup made from cornstarch. It's typically used to make foods sweet and moist while also preventing the crystallization of sugar. I would probably eat that.
Yeah, that sounds great, man.
It doesn't sound bad.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, it sounds wonderful. Sounds like a delightful waffle. The egg whites are going to give it all that air, and then the mashed potatoes will give it some moisture. It's got the starch in there as well, so that's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I'll take that day. We've got sugar and fat saving Thursday, so we're making popcorn balls.
Popcorn balls.
You got it. 275 wartime recipes, 1918. I don't know why I'm saying all of these with a southern accent, but here we go.
Yeah, I don't know either. The country's diverse, L.
I can't.
Probably,
you're gonna.
Probably the same reason why I do like a northeastern guy every time.
As I say, I can't do the north. I can't. I try. I'm not gonna. 1 cup of molasses, 2 tablespoons of margarine.
That's a good Midwest.
1 tablespoon of sugar. I don't know what happened there. All right.
Yeah,
I'm about to go Peter
Midwest.
Griffin. Here we go.
Yeah.
4 teaspoon baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So you're going to boil the molasses in the oleo 3 minutes. Add sugar. Boil till it threads very lightly. Remove and add the sugar. Pour over the popcorn. Shape and roll in wax papers.
Yeah, man. Popcorn balls. It's everyone's least favorite Halloween treat. Love it.
And in fact, this is actually, I'm so glad you said that. There's a quote from the 20th Century Club Wartime Cookbook, and it says, and a quote, "Popcorn is very valuable as a food. Give the children popcorn balls. They will be happy and satisfied, and you will be helping your country by saving on other sweets." End quote. Apparently Tim would not be.
Listen, no, I absolutely would be, because as I've stated previously, I'm a big popcorn fan. Love popcorn. 10 out of fucking 10. Popcorn's the best. All I'm saying is that popcorn balls as like a trick or treating, get a popcorn ball.
No, I agree.
How you feel about that? You know what I mean?
It's not candy. I'm pissed.
You're not stoked. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, cool. Thanks for the popcorn ball. It's better than the toothpaste and toothbrush people. Oh,
yeah. Fuck those people. No one
Can't
likes
believe
you.
that exists.
Why would you do that?
In every neighborhood. Unreal that exists in every suburban neighborhood. There's always the toothpaste and toothbrush couple. And like, fuck you, okay? Fuck you.
Yeah.
All right? Like, we all know what we're out here for. You know how disrespectful, you know what I mean? How disrespectful is that? It's Halloween, man. We know. Like, there's not a fun. This isn't like no one's like, oh, I don't know. Eating a lot of candy is bad for you. It's like we know that this is not normal because it's one day a year.
Exactly.
This is not the time to sit on your fucking high horse and be like, remember to have good dental care. And it's like, yeah, dude, I fucking know. Okay. You know how I know? Because we only do this one day a year. Okay.
Give me some fucking candy.
I fucking get it. Just give me the goddamn fun size candy bars. Unless you're rich, give me the full size ones. Don't skimp. Don't skimp. If you're rich, get the full size candy bars. Either way, that's my Halloween candy rant.
That's a good rant.
Just
we should
remember
do that.
remember if you give popcorn balls, you're better than the toothpaste people, but you're lesser than the candy people.
And it's like, do you really want to be mediocre? I don't know. When you could be
that's
great.
the hierarchy of it goes deeper. It goes deeper.
Oh, it definitely goes deeper. I agree with that.
Yeah, people that do name brand candies are above the people that do like the offshoot candies. You know what I mean?
Like you said, the full size.
If you're the people grabbing the Dots and the Smarties, if you're grabbing that bag, it's like, okay, like we're not going to complain, but you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're grabbing Dots.
Like, we appreciate it, but like, come on.
All right, come on.
Like, again, I'll take the candy.
Come on.
So,
either way, let's move on.
We're taking that, but we're going to Fat-Free Friday.
Fat-Free Friday.
We're going to make war butter from the Win the War cookbook. So,
I think we just called everything war. War
I know.
this, war that.
So this is fun. This is how to make 2 pounds of butter out of 1 pound.
Oh.
1 pound butter. Yeah. 1 pint rich milk. 1 tablespoon gelatin. If you want creamy butter,
Wait, what?
Put small amount of cold milk with some gelatin. Heat the rest. Pour over soaked gelatin. Add to butter. Heat until it begins to thicken. Place on platter by spoonful to thicken.
What?
Yeah, they literally added gelatin to butter.
That's amazing. They made butter jello.
They made butter jello.
Also,
I hate that.
I mean,
no.
I guess gelatin was made enough at the time. Gelatin is like made from marrow, but sure. Maybe I guess it was accessible at the time. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, because I guess they were. I mean, if they're doing skin to tail,
for sure,
bone, yeah, right.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
So Europeans lacked butter. Extending butter at home was the only way. I say the only, but it was one way to help the war effort. Other fats such as glycerin were also needed for the manufacture of explosives. So that kind of blew my mind that we're putting glycerin in explosives. Then you've got Porkless Saturdays, mock sausage from the 20th century club wartime cookbook.
Oh yeah, give it to me.
Here you go. Are you ready for this? You got a cup of lima beans, half a tablespoon of powdered sage.
Hold on. You said lima beans?
I said 1 cup lima beans. Them green boys.
Already wrong start. Wrong
green boys.
Foot.
Half teaspoon dry thyme. I think I said tablespoon of powdered sage. It's a teaspoon of powdered sage. Teaspoon dried sweet marjoram, corn or veggie oil, salt, mace, flour. Soak lima beans overnight. Boil until very soft. Drain and mash. Season with salt, pepper, and half a teaspoon of sage, thyme, and marjoram. Make the rolls about the size of a finger. Roll in the flour and fry a golden brown in corn or veggie oil.
You created lima bean patties.
That's mock sausage.
Which, listen, and that doesn't necessarily sound bad. A lot of mace back in the day. That didn't necessarily sound awful. Probably a little under-seasoned, but for the time, that makes sense. But yeah, that's weird to use lima beans as the mock sausage bean. I would say that's a weird move.
It's very strange.
That's a weird move. It's a
little strange.
Maybe like a pinto or something like that. You know, something that's a little bit, I don't know, brown for one. Maybe not as vegetal.
I know. I think it's a weird choice, that lima beans.
Lima beans are so vegetal. Why would you use?
I don't know. I don't know.
Pork sausage is not vegetal at all. So just
and I didn't see anything about like they were shipping other beans off. So I don't know if it was like an issue of
they used.
I don't know.
Maybe not even a kidney bean. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I ain't
I don't
about
know.
that, kid.
I don't know, kid. All right, we got to get to the dessert, right? So we got sugarless sundae, war cake, and this one's from the U.S. Food Administration's War Economy and Food Cookbook. Here's your favorite. You got a cup of molasses, cup of corn syrup, 1.5 cups of water, a cup of raisins, 2 tablespoons fat, 1 teaspoon salt, teaspoon cinnamon, teaspoon cloves, nutmeg, rye flour, baking soda, and then 2 teaspoons of baking powder. You boil together for 5 minutes the first 9 ingredients that are listed. You cool, add the sifted dried ingredients, and bake into 2 loaves for 45 minutes in a moderate oven. This cake should be kept several days before using. It makes about 20 to 25 servings. If desired, use 1 cup of oatmeal in place of the flour.
That's what's up.
To your point, there was also potato bread, scalloped cabbage, cornbread, bean and tomato stew, savory rice, poultry with peas, buckwheat chocolate cake, and chocolate fudge frosting.
I mean, also, just real quick, I just want to say that cake, which is just like, it's just a sweet bread, actually doesn't sound terrible, I'm be honest with you. And I actually think if you replace the flour with the oats, you almost do something better for it, because oats and raisins are a thing of glory. And you have cinnamon and nutmeg in there. It just sounds like all the stuff is maybe like a little under seasoned, but again, the time being, like it makes sense.
Right.
But again, I mean, you're using cloves and nutmeg with cinnamon, which those, like, cloves are pretty strong and nutmeg's pretty toasty and strong. So I think that just kind of amplifies the cinnamon. I think that's a good recipe. I like that one. That's not bad.
I was like, that and the potato cakes, I think, or the potato waffles, my apologies, I think were the two that I was like, that could actually be.
Yeah, and I think the corn syrup, like the corn syrup's fine. I think now, like, there's not a sugar ration, so, like, just use sugar. But, yeah, I mean, the molasses is a hit for sure.
And it's like.
I fuck with it.
Yeah, it was honestly not bad. So I do want to know, like, we kind of have spoken about how manufacturing has changed, like the consumerism of food and how quickly. So we really see a little bit of that in the First World War, but consumerism didn't really hit the type of peak that it did post World War I. But with that being said, though, a lot of manufacturing that was used to make food turned into war-producing machines. Because of technological advancements, the weaponry created that made World War I one of the most deadliest wars, which, okay, makes sense in the grand scheme of time, right? This war had planes and massive ships, not exactly crossing the Delaware, right? So it's like, of course, at this time, this is going to be the deadliest war. And I also want to make note that at this time, Americans were also dealing with the influenza of 1918. In the United States, approximately 292,000 deaths were reported between September and December 1918. So,
damn.
Right. So it's like, not only are you dealing with war efforts abroad during this year, but you're also having to deal with the influenza of 1918 and dealing with that here domestically.
Yeah.
On top of that, trying to essentially ration and preserve foods and change your diets completely. Like, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. But yeah, for the most part, those were the preservation, the saving of the fats, the meatless Mondays, wheatless Wednesdays. Those were the corn. Can't forget corn.
Yeah.
Those are the solid foundation ground blocks of the food of World War I, which is wild to me.
Yeah. I didn't know that there was like a full ass like weekly fucking planner from the U.S. government during the First World War. That's pretty nuts.
And it's like, I think there's something to be said about the average U.S. citizen was rationing food during wartime in general, because that was like the U.S.'s way of like helping the efforts abroad in the Allied powers, because like it's pretty much like about a full 3 years before the United States, because like we pretty much come in at the end. Mm-hmm. Right? Like the war, not to say the war's over, but it's like grand scheme, people have been fighting for about 3.5 years before the U.S. is like, all right, we're going to do this. From there, efforts in turn were supporting the troops, but also in some cases showing a spotlight on locally grown and produced foods in the area, thereby supporting the people directly in the community as well as abroad. One thing that we're going to talk about is in the next episode, Tim. There's a part 2 to this. Yeah. We're all about the parts.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about World War II.
Yeah, we are just hitting everyone with the part 2s recently. This one we knew about, though.
This one we knew about. Yeah, this one we knew about.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff happening between World War I, of course, and then obviously in World War II, right? Like a lot of historical events happen in between there. We're about to have a depression.
Yeah, it's a pretty good amount of time between the two. So, yeah.
But yeah, that's it, Tim. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think you'd be able, like I said, now that you've had some ideas of what type of foods you'd be dealing with and what type of recipes are expected? I mean, what do you think here?
I mean, I think if you put me back then, it doesn't seem like there's much of a choice. I think it's possible. I think you give that to me now, and I think I can make it better. I think when I hear about like some of the, and I just think in general we've gone a long ways in the terms of meat substitutes, even if we take out things like Impossible and beyond, like get rid of those like super scientific ones, and we've still come a lot further in terms of like meat substitute techniques that you can do at home.
Right.
I think you give that weekly burden to people now. I think that's so much easier with just the commodification of everything. Like it's unreal how much easier that is. Because the different flours are easier to get a hold of,
right? Like you said, different protein base. Yep.
Even if you're rationing things, it doesn't necessarily just with how easily everything is accessible. It's even our sugars, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, different types of sugars, and that's what I thought. It was also barley, rye. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I did not know that they did a full weekly planner. That's impressive.
It is impressive. I will give them that.
Am I giving a score now, or am I waiting till I hear World War II and then I?
You said you wanted to do a score, but I'm like, yeah. I mean, you could do. You could do it that way.
Yeah, we'll forget this number like we did our soda 100%. Episode.
It's also partially true. Yep.
Yeah. Didn't both World Wars last 4 years?
Yes.
Yes. Pretty sure they did. Again, I'm a peasant. I don't know anything about the wars. So we'll do a scale of 1 to 4.
I like that. Okay.
And you know what?
World War II was 5 years. No, wait, was 1930. So 1939 to 1945 was 6 years.
Okay. Let's do a 1 to 6 then. And you know what? I will give World War I a fucking 3. Right down the middle. There's some cool stuff.
Okay.
There's some cool recipes. I love the gardening stuff. That was the best part.
Yeah, I agree.
And it allowed me to talk shit about popcorn ball people during Halloween.
And toothbrush people.
And I overall though, yeah, I give the recipes a 3 out of 6. Not great, not bad. Right down the middle.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear about World War II. I have a weird feeling that I'm going to give World War II a better score for its recipes. I feel like time goes on a little bit. It's closer to my lifetime, so I feel like there's going to be more ability to kind of hearken to similarities as opposed to World War I, in which I have nothing. There's no.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the oats and molasses and raisins, I was like, oh, something that sounds familiar. Because everything else was foreign.
Foreign. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I have a feeling, maybe not, but that's what I'm going with. So 3 out of 6.
3 out of 6 ain't bad. Yes, okay. But yeah, it was World War I.
That's World War I. That's the end of the podcast. That's Where Does World War I, food edition. And you hear that? That's Austin Martin. He's played in years. And you love it. And you love the intro, and you love our stingers. And if you don't, fuck you. Because I love it. You should go check him out on Apple and Spotify. He's there. And you should listen to him. Give him some listens. He gets a little bit of money for it. But since it's Spotify and Apple, he gets like a cent per 5,000 million plays.
Wow.
But still, you should do it. You should do it. Check us out on Twitter. We're at Where Does Food. I'm at Tim Wehunt.
And I'm at El Chapo with 3 underscores between L and Chapo. Thank you.
That's right. Guys, you can also check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and a lot of other podcast catchers. And you can donate to us if you feel like it. We do have a button. You can donate to us, buy us a coffee. It's great. Do that, support the podcast. Another way you can support the podcast by leaving reviews. We always love reviews. And if you're still listening to this outro, which would be incredible because nobody listens to outros, thank you so much. And you can find all of the show notes and all that fun stuff, like links to our socials and things like that, and to Austin Martin. You can find all that stuff in the show notes. Just click on the little description thing on whatever podcast platform you're using, and it'll be there. Links and all. You just click, and it takes you to it.
That's
most
incredible.
of the time.
Unless
I mess it up. Unless I mess it up, and then it doesn't work. But either way,
Okay.
that is it. That's the end of the show. That was World War I. I hope you love your family and your pets, and I hope you get a good night's rest tonight.
I think
Thank
we
you
will.
for listening.